Steel behind black water ahead. Moon on the spears, fear in the breath. Dust like thunder rolling our name. Why did we leave old ghosts, same chain?
What is the first thing you do after the worst is over? Like after diagnosis comes back clear, or, that phone call, that one that kind of changed everything with the news, or after the thing that you were sure would destroy you doesn't. Now, Israel just walked through the sea on dry ground, and the army that chased them for 3 days, it's gone. It doesn't even exist anymore, right? And the empire that held them for 430 years has nothing left to send. So what do? Of course, they sing. Not a prayer, not a planning session or a debrief, but a sincere and wonderful song. And it is one of the oldest, most extraordinary poems in the entire Bible. Welcome back to Come Listen With Me. I'm Ricky Black, aka Elder Eleazar, and this is our Tuesday, April 14th reading for week 16 of our ongoing 2026 Come Follow Me study of the Old Testament. And today we are in Exodus, chapter 15. We're going to be doing verses 1 through 21, a section that's known as the Song of the Sea. And we're going to read every verse together and dig into what makes this poem so remarkable, both as just ancient Hebrew literature, but also as theology that still speaks to us right now, today. All right, well, we've got some beautiful text to read, some Hebrew to unpack, and a woman with a drum who deserves more attention than she usually gets. So with that, let's come listen together. Now, before we open our scriptures, we want to read with intention. So here's a few questions to keep in mind to help focus our reading today. First up, what does Israel choose to praise about God first? What he has done, who he is, or what he will yet do, right? And watch how the song moves from deliverance to God's character to future hope as you ponder that question. Then, what images and repeated phrases are used to describe the Lord's power? This is where you're going to want to look for sea imagery, the right hand of the Lord, breath of the wind, in ways that Egypt's strength is overturned. It's really interesting. And finally, what do you learn about God by comparing the enemy's words and God's actions? Pay attention to Pharaoh's side of the story versus how quickly and decisively the Lord acts. Now, actually, before we get into the scriptures, I want to give you one piece of context that changes how you hear everything that follows. Now, many scholars regard the poem as one of the oldest surviving compositions of the Hebrew Bible. Like the grammar, it's archaic, and the vocabulary includes words that fell out of use in later Hebrew, which means we're dealing with ancient Hebrew that was ancient to ancient Hebrew, right? Also, the metrical structure, right? The rhythm of the lines, it follows a pattern that's found in old Ugaritic poetry from the same general period. Now, a couple of scholars, Frank Moore-Cross and David Noel Freedom, they're two of the most respected Hebrew linguists of the 20th century. And they argued that the song dates to the 12th or 13th century BCE, so potentially within living memory of the event that it describes. And I say that not to overwhelm you with like academic details, but to really help you hear what you're about to hear. This is not some later author looking back and composing a tidy reflection. This reads like something born at the water's edge at that moment. It's raw, it's breathless, and it's written in the language of the moment. It's not polished for posterity. Now, in the Torah scroll itself, the passage is written in a special layout called brickwork. And the lines are arranged in alternating like half lines like bricks in a wall, right? And only one other passage in the entire Hebrew Bible gets this treatment, and that's the Song of Deborah in Judges chapter 5. So the scribes who copied the Torah for centuries were telling you visually, before you even read a word, this text is very different. Handle with care. Okay, now let's actually read. We're going to go ahead and jump into verses 1 through 5 here. All right. All right, so verses 1 through 5. And then sang Moses and the children of Israel this song unto the Lord, and spake, saying, I will sing unto the Lord, for he hath triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider hath he thrown into the sea. All right, so there in verse 1. The opening line, the refrain, it's the hook, if you will, right? If you want to think of it in musical terms, it's the hook. So horse and rider thrown into the sea. This is the image that will carry the whole poem, right? Egypt's greatest military asset, its chariot corps, is cavalry. It's hurled into the water like it was nothing. And the verb here is rama, which is to hurl, to cast. So there's a certain built-in violence to this verb. It's like God didn't gently lower Egypt into the sea. He threw them, he cast them into it. All right, so let's continue on with verse 2 here. The Lord is my strength and song, and he is become my salvation. He is my God, and I will prepare him an habitation. My father's God, and I will exalt him. So, two things to catch here. First, he is become my salvation. So the Hebrew word here is yeshuah. So we talked about this yesterday. Yeshuah is the name of Jesus. It's embodied in the song before anyone knows his name. So if you were translating this in the modern day, you might say something like that he is become my Christ, my Jesus. Now, Moses is singing about Yeshua, salvation. And 3,000 years later, we know who that salvation is. And second thing to notice is that I will prepare him a habitation. So some translations will render this as I will praise him or I will glorify him. But again, the Hebrew and Yehu can also carry a sense of building a dwelling place, right? You're actually physically taking your hands and assembling a place to live, a shelter. So the song is already looking forward to the tabernacle, right? The place where God will dwell among his people. And the poem is barely started. It's 2 lines in, and it's already reaching towards the temple. All right, let's continue on in the next verse here for verse number 3. The Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name. I don't know, we're just getting one line at a time, but there's so much here. It's fantastic. So right there, it's Yahu ish Melchama, right? Yahweh, Jehovah, is a warrior. And this is the most anthropomorphic titles for God, right? That's out there, right? One of them, particularly in the Old Testament. It's also one of the most ancient. So in the broader ancient Near East tradition, the storm god defeats the sea and establishes his kingship, right? And in the Ugaritic Baal cycles, Baal defeats Yam, right? The personified sea, and builds his palace on the holy mountain. So the Song of the Sea follows the same arc, but it recasts it entirely around Yahuwah, right, or Jehovah, and Israel, right, chosen people. And it's not a myth about cosmic forces. Like, this is a hymn about what happened yesterday at a specific sea to a specific people. And so the mythology is historized right here, and that fusion of mythic pattern as well as an actual lived experience is one of the more distinctive moves in all of the Israelite religion. So it's really kind of interesting. All right, let's continue on in verses 4 and 5. Pharaoh's chariots and his host hath he cast into the sea. The depths have covered them that sank into the bottom as a stone. So his chosen captains, right? The word is shalashim. It's literally third men, right? The elite officers who rode as the third man in a chariot. Those were not conscripts. These were Egypt's best, and they sank like a stone. Right? Verses 6 and 7. The right hand, O Lord, is become glorious in power. Thy right hand, O Lord, hath dashed in pieces the enemy. And in the greatness of thine excellency thou hast overthrown them that rose up against thee. Thou sentest forth thy wrath, which consumed them as stubble. So the right hand of God appears twice in verse 6. In biblical symbolism, the right hand represents power, covenant, authority, and salvation. Right? Think about Jesus sitting at the right hand of God. So the Psalms and Isaiah, they use this image repeatedly. Now, the song is establishing the vocabulary that the rest of the Old Testament will draw on for centuries, and later Jesus will draw on as part of identifying himself in his relation to the Father. Let's continue on with verses 8 through 10. And with the blast of thy nostrils the waters were gathered together. The floods stood upright as a heap, and the depths were congealed in the heart of the sea. And the enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil. My lust shall be satisfied upon them. I will draw my sword, my hand shall destroy them. Thou didst blow with thy wind, the sea covered them. They sank as lead in the mighty waters. So verse 9 there, it's a little haunting, right? He gives us the voice of the Egyptian commander. I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil. My lust shall be satisfied. So it's 5 I will statements in rapid succession. And it's the language really of an unchecked ego, right? It's self-referencing, self-glorifying, totally blind with power that is about to close the walls of water on top of him. They're not really sure what's going on. It's overconfident. And then verse 10, that one line, thou didst blow with thy wind, the sea covered them. That's it. All that Egyptian arrogance undone in a single breath from God. And they sank as lead in the mighty waters, as stones. Now contrast that between the 5 boasts and then the one divine act. It's devastating. They had all this momentum in God just with a simple breath. All right, so let's move on to the next section. It's known as the confession. I'm going to start with verse 11 here. Who is like unto thee, O Lord, among the gods? Who is like thee, glorious in holiness, fearful in praises, doing wonders? So that is, Mi kamachach belim Yahuwah. Who is like you among the gods, O Yahweh, Jehovah? So this is the line that gave the Maccabees their name, actually, right? The acronym of Mi kamachach belim Yahweh, spelled MKBY, that became its Maccabee. So it's a revolutionary battle cry that's born from a 3,000-year-old hymn. So notice what the verse is doing theologically, right? It's not saying there are no other gods. It is saying none of them compare. So this is kind of its core like henotheism. It's the exaltation of one God above all others based upon experienced deliverance. So Israel is not reasoning its way into monotheism through philosophy. Israel is singing its way there through gratitude. Their theology is forged in the water, not in the classroom, is a way to think about it. But it does set up the fact that God is supreme. We know that there are other divine creatures out there. God created quite a few of them, right? But he is the supreme authority above all. There is none like him. He's the only one like himself. Let's do verses 12 and 13. Thou stretchest out thy right hand, the earth swallowed them. Thou in thy mercy hast led forth the people which thou hast redeemed. Thou hast guided them in thy strength unto thy holy habitation. So the poem, it pivots, right, from past to present and future. Thou hast guided them in thy strength unto thy holy habitation. So the song is now looking forward, right? The people are not at the sanctuary yet. They're sort of standing on a beach in the desert. But the poem sees past the wilderness to the mountain and the temple and the dwelling place of God. So faith in this poem is not absence of uncertainty. It's singing about a destination before you can even see it. And I think there's something to be thought about that. You know, what we do in our covenant with the Lord is all about where we're going, what our final destination is, and one that we can't even see yet. We just have to have trust and have faith. Let's continue on. This is verses 14 and 16. The people shall hear and be afraid. A sorrow shall take hold of the inhabitants of Palestina. Then the dukes of Edom shall be amazed. The mighty men of Moab, a trembling shall take hold upon them. All the inhabitants of Canaan shall melt away. Let's do 16:2. Fear and dread shall fall upon them by the greatness of thine army. They shall be as still as a stone. Till thy people pass over, O Lord, till the people pass over which thou hast purchased. So the song, it catalogs the nations that stand between Israel and the promised land, right? Philistia, Edom, Moab, Canaan, each one will hear what God did at the sea, and they will melt. So the crossing is not just deliverance for Israel, it's also a message to every power in the region. The God of this people is not to be trifled with. And the phrase, the people pass over which thou hast purchased. So the word for purchased is kanita, which can also mean acquired or created. So God didn't really rescue Israel, he acquired them. They belong to him. They are his possession, his treasure, his workmanship. And that is the covenant claim embedded in the psalm. All right, verses 17 and 18. Thou shalt bring them in and plant them in the mountain of thine inheritance in the place, O Lord, which thou hast made of thee to dwell in the sanctuary, O Lord, which thy hands have established. The Lord shall reign forever and ever. All right, so this is the climax. God will plant his people on his mountain, he will establish his sanctuary, and he will reign forever. It's 3 movements complete: victory over chaos, confessions of God's identity, and restoration to the divine presence. So this same arc, right? Creation, redemption, restoration, that's going to run through the Psalms and through Isaiah and through the New Testament's resurrection narrative. And also it runs through the temple endowments. So the Song of the Sea is, well, its first and purest expression of that pattern. The Lord shall reign forever and ever. So 2 million people standing in a desert with no food, no water, no map, and they're singing about God's eternal kingdom. That's either madness or it's the deepest faith human beings are capable of. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the second one. Yeah. So let's continue on here. This last couple of verses, 19 through 21. For the horse of Pharaoh went in with his chariots and his horsemen into the sea, and the Lord brought again the waters of the sea upon them. But the children of Israel went on dry land in the midst of the sea. And Miriam, the prophetess, the sister of Aaron, took a timbrel in her hand, and all the women went out after her with timbrels and with dances. And Miriam answered them, Sing ye to the Lord, for he hath triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider hath he thrown into the sea. Now, I want to spend a minute here because Miriam deserves it. She is called a prophetess. It's Neviah in Hebrew. That's before any formal priesthood structure yet exists in Israel. So the tabernacle hasn't been built, and the Levitical system has not been established. Sinai has not yet happened. And the text identifies her with a title that places her in the prophetic tradition. She takes a toph, it's a hand drum, a frame drum. And in ancient Israel, the toph was a woman's instrument. So every single time the Bible identifies the gender of someone playing a toph, it is a woman. And the victory song is the whole performance, drum, dance, and vocal praise after the military triumph was recognized as a female liturgical genre. So this is not Miriam tagging along with Moses. This is Miriam performing in a tradition that belongs to her. Now, Cross and Friedman, who, again, they were those pioneering American biblical scholars. Again, they have all this foundational work in epigraphy, Hebrew poetry, and orthography. Well, they argued back in 1955 that the entire hymn should actually be called the Song of Miriam, not the Song of Moses. And their reasoning was that it was far easier to explain a later tradition reassigning a woman's song to the great lawgiver than to explain why a secondary role would be attributed to Miriam if she had not composed or led the original performance. So I'm not here to settle the debate, but I'm here to say this. Whatever you call this song, Miriam led it. The woman went out after her, and she was the one with the drum. She was the one who started the refrain. And on the day that Israel first worshipped as a free people, a woman, a prophetess, a Neviah, she set the tempo. So the song, it moves in three parts: what God has done, who God is, what God will yet do, past, present, and future. That is the structure of praise. And I think it is worth asking yourself today, when is the last time that you sang all three? Now, it's easy to thank God for what he has done. It's harder to declare who he is when the wilderness stretches ahead. And it is an act of raw faith to sing about where he is taking you when you can't even see it yet. But that is what Israel did at the sea. And that is what covenant people have done ever since. So please drop a comment below and tell me which verse from the song hit you the hardest today. I'd love to hear it. We can have a great discussion. And who knows, maybe something that just occurred to you is going to be a deep insight to others that can change how they view the song as well. So let's keep the conversation going. Let's build this up as a community. And that's all I have for you today. So I'll see you back here tomorrow for day 3. And that's where we're going to hit the ground after all this euphoria, right? It's going to be 3 days after the song, and the water's going to run out. What Israel finds at Marah, it's bitter, it's gross, it's disgusting. And then what God does with a tree and some undrinkable water it's one of the most quietly beautiful moments in the entire Exodus. So you don't want to miss it. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And if you're going deeper this week, the deep dive article that's paired with today's reading, it's on the Song of Miriam itself, right? It's going to cover all the Archaic Hebrew, the dating debate, Miriam's role, the divine warrior motif, and how the song's 3-part structure maps onto temple theology. You're not going to want to miss that. So the link, it's in the description, so you can check it out. I know you're going to enjoy it. And as always, I appreciate you all, and thank you for choosing to spend some of your precious time to come listen with me.